Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Out on the Ranch with Dr. Lee. It is a chilly Christmas Eve morning, about 38 degrees. Got a nice little breeze blowing on us, too, just to keep you from getting warm. And for a flatland Texas boy like me, this is brutal. So I hope you appreciate me being out here making this video for you. Anyway, this is a three-part video today. I have three gifts for you today. The first one I'm going to do myself. The second one will be presented by a regular contributor on this channel, and the third one from a group of people who also contribute on this channel. And I hope you like your little Christmas presents from me and others as well today. So thanks again for tuning in today. It's going to be a little bit of a lengthy video, so I'm going to go ahead and get into my present to you. My present to you is a story, and I know a lot of you have commented that you always enjoy story time with Dr. Lee. For those of you who do, well, welcome aboard. We're going to get into it here. For the others of you, you might just want to go ahead and fast forward to gift number 2. But nevertheless, my story is a true story. It is a Christmas story. It happened 150 years ago, and I would like to say it's a bouncy little happy Christmas story, but it's not. It's a tragic, terrible, dark story. The ending of it is just a little bit of a sunrise. The whole thing's a mess, but it's a true story. It's a Christmas story, and I thought you might enjoy it. Back in 1861, the year that the Civil War started, there was a young lady named Frances. All of her friends called her Fanny. And Fanny was a sweet family woman. She was in her early 40s. She was married to a fellow named Henry. They had a wonderful family. They had 6 children. The oldest one at that time was 16 years old. And they were just your basic everyday family. They were just trying to do the best to get by and raise their family, and they were a very loving family, and Henry and Fanny were very deeply in love. And late one night, Fanny was writing letters, and she was sealing the letters, as they all did back in the 1800s, with sealing wax, which you heated up with a candle, and then you put your stamp, you folded it, put your stamp on that wax, and that's the way they sealed their letters back then. Fanny had set the candle down beside her, and within a short amount of time, her dress caught afire, and before she knew it, her whole entire body was ablaze. She screamed and awakened Henry, who was asleep in the next room. He came running in there, wrapped Fanny in a rug, trying to extinguish the blaze, but was unsuccessful. So then he lay his body completely on top of Fanny's and finally got the fire out only after setting himself on fire. And it was just a horrible, horrible scene. Fanny's wounds were so terrible, she passed away the next day. Henry's wounds were so terrible that he was scarred for life. He was in such bad shape, he could not even attend Fanny's funeral. His face took the worst part of it, and it was very scarred, and he grew a long white beard just to cover up all the wounds on his face. So things were just terribly rough. Henry had lost the love of his life. She had basically burned to death in his arms, and then he had to recuperate from his own wounds as well. As time passed, the war got worse. This country was tearing itself apart. Everyone's friends and family were involved in this war, and they were out there slaughtering each other. It was the darkest moment in the United States history, and Henry and all the citizens of the United States bore that pain as well. And to make matters worse, Henry was psychologically, emotionally disturbed from the death of his wife. He told a lot of his friends that he feared he would have to be institutionalized the rest of his life because the grief he bore for Fanny's death was almost incapacitating. So poor Henry was struggling on those two fronts, and at the same time, his oldest son, Charlie, decided he wanted to go fight in the war. And Charlie felt it was his need as a citizen of the United States to go stand up for his rights and do what he felt was right. But Henry told Charlie that Henry was so emotionally unstable that he feared that he could not withstand another death in the family. So they argued back and forth and back and forth, and finally in the spring of 1863, Charlie snuck out in the middle of the night, hopped a train, went to Washington, D.C. and signed up with the Army, totally against Henry's wishes. But you know how kids are. So Henry, so as this plays out, Charlie is in the Army. He's doing very well, but he gets typhoid fever, has to come home. Henry gets him back healthy again, and as soon as he's healthy, he leaves and goes back to war again. He missed the Battle of Gettysburg, but he did get involved in the Battle of Mill Run. And in that battle, Charlie got shot through the back. The bullet went in one side, went very, very close to his spinal cord, and then blew out the shoulder on the other side. So Charlie was terribly wounded. This happened on the day before Thanksgiving, 1863. And interestingly enough, Henry found out about it on December 1st, 1863. And by December 8th, they had Charlie back home. Henry and his next oldest son went and picked up Charlie on the battlefield and brought him back home. His days as a soldier were over, and they were unsure if he was going to live, and if he did live, was he going to be paralyzed? It was just a mess. So here you've got Henry, still the wounds in his mind from his sweet bride being burned to death in his arms were still there. The war was tearing his country apart. Now his beloved son was laying in his bed fighting for his life. And Henry still had all these kids to raise. And with all this bleakness and with all these terrible things going on, Henry was just beside himself. He did not know what to do. So a few weeks into this, and it was Christmas morning, and Henry woke up and he could hear the church bells ringing down the street. And he went over to his desk by the fireplace, and he sat down, took out a pen and a piece of paper, and he wrote down these words. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, the old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat, of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black accursed mouth, the cannons thundered from the south, and with the sound the carols drowned, of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then peal the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. Wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. Henry's full name was Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Despite all that tragedy in his life, he wound up becoming one of the greatest writers of all time. That is an abbreviated version of that poem. It's called Christmas Bells. Again, it was written on Christmas Day, 1863. If you want to read the whole thing, just Google it. It is an awesome poem. I think you'd like it. You do not have to be an English professor to enjoy that poem. It is an awesome work. Anyway, guys, that is my #1 gift to you today. And I know there's a lot of you that have a lot of dark things going on in your life, and I want you to always think of Henry. Despite all of that, he found a way to drag himself out of that hole and start a whole new life. Pretty impressive man. That's gift #1. Here comes gift #2. Floyd, how you doing today?
Doing fine, thank you.
Good. Well, this is going to be our Christmas video, so I thought it'd be interesting if you could just kind of fill us in on about Christmas when you were a kid. What was Christmas like back in the 1920s? What was Christmas like back when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, well, that's been a long time ago, but I remember them very well. We didn't get presents and money and cars and things like that like we do today. But all the kids had to hang their stockings on the chimney, on the fireplace. And next morning, of course, we were all anxious to get up and get our sock, and that's all you got was what was in that sock most of the time. And you'd get an orange and an apple and a few nuts, almonds and things like that, and then you got one package of regular small firecrackers and one a little bit larger so it wouldn't blow your finger off, and maybe a cap gun and a pair of socks, and that was it. That was Christmas, and of course, the grown people didn't give too many gifts. They were thinking mostly about fixing a big feast for the day. And of course, we had turkey and dressing and all the condiments of Thanksgiving and Christmas piled into one. So we had a lot of fun. We'd save our sparkler, and we'd get one sparkler in there, save those till night, and so we could whirl them around and see the pretty lights. My father loved to make wine, and he had a 55-gallon wooden barrel. And every year we'd go out on the Brazos River and gather wild Mustang grapes and bring them in, and we'd put them in a big tub, and then we'd squeeze them. And if we had any small children around, he'd wash their feet and put them in and let them stomp them with the feet, just for fun. And but anyway, he made 55-gallon wine every year, and he kept it down in the cellar. And on Christmas morning, he also had a very good eggnog recipe. And he'd get up about 3 o'clock in the morning and go wake up all the neighbors and bring them down to the house. And we'd drink eggnog, and we'd drink wine and have a lot of fun and drink coffee and eat cake. And then about 8 o'clock, he'd bottle that wine up in the half-gallon bottles. And about 8 o'clock, he'd load all that wine in his car and drive around and give it all away to his friends.
Oh, my.
And he had a lot of fun doing that. He loved making the wine, and so.
And how old were you when you were drinking all this wine and eggnog?
Oh, I was like 5, 6 years old. And I remember one time my brother George, they couldn't find him, and he was under the table, sound asleep.
Oh, he'd had a little too much eggnog.
He had too much eggnog and wine.
Those darn 7-year-olds, you just can't trust them, can you?
It was funny.
Yeah, that's great.
No, our dad always told us, said, if you're going to drink right here at the house.
Yeah.
And that's what we did, and seldom ever took over 1 or 2 drinks, you know.
Yeah.
That's the way it was.
Yep, a whole lot different than the way it is today, right?
It's
and
fact.
Did y'all have a Christmas tree?
We had Christmas trees sometimes.
And you didn't have lights in the tree, did you?
No.
Yeah.
Just had little ornaments and things you could pick up around and tie on there.
Yeah. And so Christmas was not nearly as much of a commercial entity as it is today, was
Exactly.
it? Yeah. So did your mom, did she get up early in the morning and start cooking and cook all day long?
The women always got up early and started cooking.
Yeah.
That wasn't only at Christmas time. That was all time, but especially Christmas, Thanksgiving. Yeah. They really put on a feast.
So did you have like a lot of family come over to the house, and the house was full of family and friends all day long?
That's right.
Yeah.
They used to, everybody would go visit everybody they could that day.
Yeah. That seems like a pretty good way to spend Christmas to me.
It was a great time.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Floyd. Is there anything you want to say to these people on Christmas?
Just want to wish them a Merry Christmas, and may God bless each one of you.
Doesn't get any better than that. Thanks, Floyd.
All right.
Well, thank you, Floyd. And yes, indeed, Christmas has changed, not for the better. Hope you enjoyed that, folks. Here comes gift number 3.
At the end, when we're singing.
When we get through, we'll close it once we get a version that we're all satisfied. Can you sing louder?
Sure.
1, 2.
Silent
That's all I'll just say. Merry Christmas, everyone. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
And we'll just kind of wave at the camera. We hope you liked that. Good night, everybody, and Merry Christmas. Y'all were supposed to say Merry Christmas then, too.
Oh.
Okay, let's do it again. All right, do it again.
Bad actors.
Well, good night, everybody. We hope you enjoyed that, and
Merry Christmas!
Woo!
That's good enough. That's all you get for a quarter.
Bud left.
Yeah.
He only came for a
And he's
split
deaf.
second.
Yeah, that band's kind of crazy, aren't they? Good people. We have a lot of fun, as you can tell. Well, folks, my fingers are about frozen. I'm going to head in the house, get a cup of coffee or possibly hot chocolate, depends on what the girls have going right now. I hope you enjoy the rest of this Christmas Eve, and I hope tomorrow, Christmas Day, is a wonderful, beautiful day for you. I hope you get to spend it with a lot of family. And if you're traveling on this holiday, the average 2-hour trip driven 80 miles an hour as opposed to 70 miles an hour will get you 21 extra minutes of listening to little Susie's trombone playing or the whole entire story of Aunt Bertha's gallbladder surgery. Think about that while you're driving. You may enjoy the drive more than you realize. Anyway, guys, Merry Christmas to you all. Thanks for stopping in on Out on the Ranch with Dr. Lee. Always remember I love you, and we will see you next time. Merry Christmas.
I don't know. I think the red's kind of cool though.
Do you have it on a timer?
The problem
It's going.
Oh.
Let's see.
Practicing by the barn.
Yeah. Start it over.
Start all over. I'm sorry.
Sounds like
Let's start again.
That's pretty good. So what you doing there, Al?
Neutering a dog, Dad.
All right. Who's gonna learn you?
That's a mistake.